game review. I'm on the road, so we'll call this, game reviews from the road. I like bringing games with me, play some solo games. It's a good way to pass the time when you're away from home for work or whatever reason. This time I'm playing Deep Space D-6 by Tony Go. It's basically a dice/worker placement game. And you are the captain of a ship and you receive a distress call. You warp in to save the day and find out that it's a trap, and you have to defend off the enemies until you can be rescued. Alright, so I'll go over the components here real quick. First, the game box. It's pretty nice. It's small, as you can see, about the size of my hand. It has the magnetic opening right here, kind of like that. You open it up. It's got a little bit of how you make it easier, basically scaling the game, and then the bit about the Oberus here, which is the final battle and different ways you can do that. So the first thing you see is a very short rule book. There's enough as far as the illustrations to make it pretty easy. It is literally a 5-10 minute read. Very simple, very easy. Has little quick rules on the back, so it's nice. It's not exorbitant, not full of great artwork and lots of pictures, but it fits in a small box. Comes with one regular die that is used as your threat dice, 6 crew dice. These represent your crew members, and each of the different faces is a different kind of crew member who has different actions. And this is a threat dice, which basically you put on the scanner and you find new threat cards. So it takes away an option from you. So sort of a bad dice. So you have those pieces there. You have 54 threat cards, and these have all of your different kinds of things that happen. So this would be an enemy ship, another enemy ship, and this has how much damage it can take. And this is the threat die face roll, which tells you whether what number when you roll the threat die. If any of these numbers show up, then you execute whatever's underneath it. So this one you'd lose 2 hull points. Don't panic cards, which do nothing, and these are called oops, that's another don't panic. This is an internal threat because it has this little square and not a ship thing, and basically this one sends all ones of this kind, all these crew members, to the infirmary, and some of them have special powers. This one you rescue a soldier. This one must be completed before any other one of these crews, so you have to roll this kind of dice, put it there, and that gets rid of it. So these are your your threat cards. Pretty simple. 2 cubes. This one is your shield cube, this one is your hull cube, and they just roll down to mark your damage. This is your infirmary card, where you put folks that have gotten crew that have been sent to the infirmary, and these are just dice waiting to go back into your hand. And it comes with 4 different ships. The Halcyon, this is sort of an all-around ship, and on the back of each one of these tells you a little bit about the ship. So this was your all-around, good defensive, a little bit of offensive ship. This one is your AG-8, tells you the story around there. It's a drone ship. This one is your Mononoware. Again, just a different shaped ship, and this is a alien ship. And then the last one is your Mark II, and again, each one has different things that the crew can do, so it helps with the replayability. This almost always recharges shields, but each ship has different powers, abilities, different kinds of weapons, so different kind of gameplay. And that is basically everything that comes in the box. It all fits in this one box quite nicely. And next, we'll move on to the setup. All right. Setup for this game is very easy. First, you pick a ship, any one of the 4. This is the Halcyon. It's just sort of the beginner starter ship. It's a good all-around ship. Next thing you do is you put down the infirmary card, and it has 2 sides. One is the plane with no special abilities on the infirmary side, or one where you can, during your phase, you can send a unit here to change any face on one of your dice. So that's just, I guess, makes it a little easier, or it gives you a few more options. I like the plane here. Next is you have your threat deck, which are all of your cards of the things that are attacking you. Pull out the 6 cards that have the little circle at the bottom. These are Oberos, and you can play them as an end game, either by shuffling them in and setting them aside as you go along, or just put them off to the side, and as the very final encounter you use those 6 cards. Next you have your threat cards and you set them down, and there are some options when you set up. You can either, they're the cards that say don't panic, they're basically nothing happens. You can leave all 6 in, makes the game a little easier. Pull out 3 or pull out 5, those kind of set difficulty levels. And then for speed, you can pull out 8 cards to make it a fastest game, or no cards to make it a slower game. But anyway, you put these threats down. Then the next thing you do is you draw 2, and you set them up based on where their total hit points are. So there's a 2, and then you have, well, let's not use a don't panic for the example here, and another 2. So you lay those out. Those are the 2 starting threat cards. You set your cube for your shield damage and your cube for your hull damage, and just make sure you have your dice available, your 6 crew member, and your threat dice. That is the total extent of the setup. Very simple. Playing the game is very simple. It's 6 steps, same 6 steps every turn. First thing you do is you roll all of your available crew dice. The next step is anything that comes up with one of these threat scanner icons goes up here onto the scanner bank. If you get 3 of those, you immediately pull up a threat card. After you've done that, you can allocate all of your dice in whatever manner you like. So in this case, we'll just set them here. This red one is a attack. So for me, fire lasers, that could be 1 damage. This one can be used on this ship, and it's different for each ship, to either recharge all the shields or do a stasis beam. And a stasis beam means you just put it here and it can't activate this turn. That can be very helpful. This symbol can either return units from the infirmary, or you can use this one to get rid of one of those. This is for hulls, fixing your hull damage. And then there's another one, this is your captain for this ship. That actually will allow you to change any one dice to anything else. So in this case, in this case what I would do is I would take one of these and get rid of this, so they're used. I would allocate this one to fire, and these 2 really aren't going to be much help. I already have charged shields, so then you just make a choice. This one has 3 options, 2 options, but this does 3 damage, so I'm just going to nullify that one. So that's the end of all the crew allocation. You can't do anything with these because there's nothing to do with them yet. Next step is you turn over a threat card. You do this every turn, and this is another one. It would go off to the right here. So then once you've done that, you roll your threat dice, and if any face or any number on the dice matches 1 on the cards, then you take that action. So a 5. So this one is null. Even if it had a 5, we wouldn't do it. This one, -2 hull, and then it's not on this one. If it happened to have been a 3 or 4, you'd -1 hull and send a unit to the infirmary. But in this case, -2 the hull. You always take it from the shields first, so 1, 2. And then that's actually the end of the turn. So next turn, you gather up all your dice, and then you would roll them again. So in this case, I have a whole bunch of these captains, so that's very helpful. And once again, I could use this to do the shield, to recharge the shields. I could use these to return any of these, but there's nothing there. So what I'm going to do is take one of these, convert that to an attack. Oh, I never did do my attack last time. I'm going to take one of these and do another one to an attack. And then I'm going to actually take this one and I'm going to do a third one to an attack. So that gives me one attack damage for the first one and then 2 for each of the other 2. So that's 5. So I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one will have 1 damage left. So that's the end of all of my allocation. I would flip another one of these, and then this is what's called an internal threat because it has this up here instead of a number. So it goes here, and then the way these work is, for this one, this is a panel explosion. I cannot use any of the repair dice until I use one of these to actually knock this off. So now the next thing I do is I'd roll my threat dice. I got a 6, it doesn't match either of those, so no damage. And then you continue on in this manner until you have either lost all of your health, have all of these guys pushed over into the infirmary or used up here so you can't roll any dice, or you completely exhaust this and then your Oberus ship at the end, in which case you win. So if I did one more turn, just to be quick, I'd roll my dice, I'd put this one here. I have one of these, so it's important I'll put that here, which means this one is now discarded. Then I have 3 captains and one of these. So what I would do is I'll use this to repair my shields. I'll use this captain here to turn one of these into a laser. And then this one doesn't matter. I can't do anything with that. But my 1 point for the laser will remove this off to the junk pile. Do my turn here. Oh, I don't panic, which means nothing happens, and then I'm set up for my next turn. That is simply how it goes. To end the game with this Oberus, if I just say I've killed my last card just got shot off, you pull this out and it's you just set these up based on where their difficulty is. That's a 3 and that's a 3. And then you would continue on with the game as normal, just understanding that you have to kill the barrier before you can do anything else, and then you have to, this one will let you re-roll. You've got 2 attacks, so you want to get rid of those 2 first, and then go after the core of the ship to end the game. Like I said, the game ends when either you are out of dice or out of shields and hull, all your dice are taken up. So for example, you've got these in the infirmary, and then 2 up here. That would end the game because you have nothing to roll, or you destroy the attacking ship. And that is basically the entire game in a nutshell. So some final thoughts. As far as replayability goes, I think it's got a lot of it. Having 4 different ship boards, the randomness of the dice, different end games or way to do the end game, and there is an expansion, gives you a lot of replayability. And the fact that it has scalable difficulty, so it's sort of like a video game where you beat it on easy, so then you move on to hard, and then you move up one more to insane level. This sort of has a little bit of that. So I think the game itself is not going to change a whole lot, but every game is different, and it's a fairly fast game, so I think the replayability piece has got it. As far as theme goes, you really wouldn't think a box mostly black and white, this big, would have a lot of theme, but you really do kind of get into it. I mean, there's just a little bit of text at the beginning, a little bit about each ship on the back of each board, but you really feel like you're in the space fight. Now, I don't really make the leap to these are actually crew members, especially with having the scanner bit coming up here. But what I do feel more like is, I'm Captain Kirk, flying around, fighting the Romulans and the Klingons, and I have a bunch of red-shirted crew members that are going off to either fight aliens off ship or on ship, and most of them die. So I don't really feel like they're people, but it's more like the captain of the ship, and lots of crew members who actually have functions, and the dice are more like functions. Then, really the most important thing is it's fun. Is it fun? Well, it is pretty fun. It gets intense. A couple games I've been down to, no shields and just a couple of hull points left and a bunch of stuff on there, and you get just the right roll. So it can be kind of intense. It is fun and you want to win. And it's a game you don't get real invested in. So it's not one, like a role-playing game that you're going to want to do a big campaign. But for something that's in a box this big that you can throw in your backpack, throw in your suitcase, take with you when you travel. In my RV, it's great because it's just, the table there is about like this table here in the hotel room. So it's great for playing that. And I think it's really a fun game for one person. I mean, it is designed for solo. And then that's the other thing. There are some, I think, 2-player rules maybe if you go to Board Game Geek. And then there's a lot of fan-made content, so some other types of ships and missions kind of things. So as far as strategic depth and tactical decision making, there's not a lot of depth and layers to the decisions you have to make. You do have to think about your resource allocation, and you do have to prioritize. And that's really what this game is all about, is prioritizing your dice. As cards are laid down and you have enemies to attack and you have internal threats, what is the highest risk and what's the best way to deal with it? Do you use a dice to just make it so an enemy can't attack you, or do you try and do as much damage as possible and get rid of 2 or 3 of the enemies, or do you try and get rid of the scanner dice up here so that you get less enemies later? Or do you try and get the guys out of the infirmary so that you have more dice? As you start losing dice and you have less rolls, there's less crew to allocate. And then you have to watch, your hull and your shield, and how does that interplay with the risk of the damage that you could take from the cards. So a lot of prioritization, a lot of allocation, but not a lot of different kinds of decisions to make. Like I said, it's not deep, but there is a lot of tactics and a lot of different decisions to be made. So for a final rating, on a scale of on the table, meaning I want to leave it there all the time, on the shelf, meaning I'm going to pull it out every couple months and binge play it for a weekend, in the closet, meaning a couple times a year, but you want to keep it in the closet, keep it in your collection, trade it, means it's probably a good game in the right circumstances, but just not my thing, or trash it, which is obviously throw it away. I think this is pretty much a in-the-closet kind of game. It's not something that I'm going to bring out all the time and play, but when I go on trips, and if I just want a quick kind of a lark, have fun, get my Star Trek Captain Kirk on, and a little different game with some dice management and some randomness, I think this is a good game to keep around, keep in your collection, and just bring it out every once in a while when you want to go beat up on some aliens and you don't have a lot of time and a lot of space and you're by yourself. So, hey, until next time, happy gaming.